I like the sign there. That is pretty darn good. Now, is that official?
This was a gift from my staff and team.
Yeah.
A ceremonial blues marker, which we've done before. Mm-hmm. And so this was a nice gift that I promised that I would take with me on my Sea Ray farewell tour. So wherever I go, it's been many places with me. And I know you can't sign it, Paul, but I'll have Perez sign the back.
Oh, please do.
For all the people that I've met.
Do.
So,
I'll underline it twice, Perez, and that will be my addition to that. It's in small letters. You're gonna have to park. Don't drive by fast because it's got very small letters. Well, they couldn't put it all on there, Craig.
Well, they in the true form of a blues marker, I think there are only 365 characters that you can have. So it's tough to put my whole career in that mark. But I really appreciate the gift, and it's a joy to serve in one of the areas that that I really have focused on since the early years of Haley Barber was really reclaiming the blues to Mississippi and establishing not only the Blues Commission but the research of the Blues Trail. And at that time we thought, we might have 25 or 30, I think what Governor Barber was hoping for, and we're at 210 now in 7 states and 5 countries in Mississippi.
Well, there was a time where everybody looked at this. We understood the importance to our country, our state, and how unique it was, but we never monetized it for tourism purposes. And all of a sudden, it just during that period of time, we said, "Wait a minute, we ought to take advantage of this," and it will be everlasting for the state as far as our image and also income.
Well, it sure is, and you look back then, Governor Barber tasked us, myself and Leland Speed, the late Leland Speed.
Oh, man. Love the guy.
We're looking for a new brand for the state. We're looking to really establish music tourism from blues, country, rock and roll, establish and highlight our festivals. And we were brought this image, Mississippi, birthplace of America's music, from a gentleman, Dr. James Brewer, who brought the brand to us, and we've been using that ever since. It's on our highway signs, it's been license plates, and it's a brand that we can claim and own, and it's really done well. And yet, have we been able to monetize this idea? And you look at that particular year, this 2004, we were tracking maybe 5,000 to 10,000 international travelers to the state of Mississippi. Record year 2019 before COVID. Life is now before Katrina, after Katrina, before COVID, after COVID. We had a record number, 185,000 international travelers, which represents $200 million in expenditures. So 90% of the international travelers are here for our music and our culinary. So that's one quick way to monetize and look at what the brand has done for our state.
Do we have more out there, more blues markers coming up, or have we reached the end of that? Or
now we selectively going forward, I think we've touched just about as many as we can here in the state. We have over 180 in Mississippi alone, but we've found some next steps. But the growth, Paul, is going to be other celebrities like a Buddy Guy that we had a couple years that's in Louisiana, but was very much part and influenced by the blues in Mississippi. And then internationally, we could probably go another 20 or 30 in just the UK. And so we have a marker in Liverpool, and we have several in France, and we know that we can grow in Europe and around the country. So we're looking at probably on the blues trail another 20 or 30 worldwide. Now the country music trail is growing. It's in the mid 30s right now and has endless potential. So
I was going to say, man, that's goodness.
Just the songwriters alone here in Mississippi.
Where do you put Elvis in that?
He is in both. That's why you do it.
Yes, that's it, and rightfully so.
He has a blues marker and a country music trail marker there in Tupelo.
And if you do gospel, you got to stick him in that one too?
He'd be right on top.
Let me ask you this. How many white people are in the blues markers, though, when you start looking at that? Because It's primarily African-American males, but are there some black females in there, too?
Yes, there are. Dorothy Moore.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
Come on.
There were some, I've never broken down percentage-wise of white and black, but it's probably 85% African-American.
Yeah.
They've honored not only white artists, but also producers. It's not just a musician. It can be a part of the industry that...
producer, et cetera.
Right. And I'm not trying to get one for myself, but we have had markers where we recognize people within the industry. So you can look at the same thing on the country music trail too, that are producers in Nashville that really that were from Mississippi that have made an impact.
Often thought that the guy that I worked with for 13 years, Early Wright, the soul man on WROX. Up in Clarkston was the first African American, and he was legendary for playing the blues. It just, which would not be, he couldn't sing, but he certainly was a DJ back in those days that had a big impact. All right, I do want to ask you this: rewind to Craig Ray. Where did you get started? How did all of this start? Now that you look back on it. Well, as far as state government, and where did you begin?
Well, for tourism, I worked. I had been friends with Governor Barber for years. He ran for Senate when I was at Ole Miss. He ran against John Stennis, and I was a college Republican, and we worked on his campaign. And that's where I first time I met him. Then right after college, I worked on the Reagan-Bush campaign here in Mississippi, and at that time, Haley was a national committeeman, and I, again, crossed paths with him. And just over the years when I moved to Washington, D.C., and when I worked for George Herbert Walker Bush, Haley was RNC chairman, was involved with RNC at that time. Again, crossing paths back and forth to Mississippi. And I just told him, if you ever run for governor, I'd love to come home and work on your campaign. That just kind of was out there. And then he announced he was running for governor, and I was ready to come home. I'd been in D.C. for years, and he accepted me to be on his campaign and came home, and we had a huge victory and asked me to stay and run his inauguration, which I did. It was a heck of a party. And then asked me to serve in his cabinet, not necessarily the cabinet level, but serve his administration. And I chose tourism. I knew it was a will and pleasure position that he would be appointing somebody to that spot, and it made sense for me. I'd been to 46 countries representing the United States and been to 48 states. I've been to 50 now as of last week, or 2 weeks ago.
What was the last one?
I took my daughter to, I needed Montana and North Dakota, and so we did a family trip.
I thought you were going to say Alabama, but...
No, I've been there many times, good and bad. So then I served. I chose tourism. It made a lot of sense. It's been a family for me, and Haley asked me to serve for 2 years, but stay as long as I wanted. Well, 18 years later, here I am.
About then. Talk more of all the advancements during that period of time, and that translated itself into literally millions of people visiting Mississippi that probably would not have otherwise chosen our state to spend some money in, and how much do they spend? More with Craig Ray. By the way, did meet your daughter again, visited the network yesterday or the day before. And
she's having a great time.
Well, she thinks maybe you need to occupy your time. You're at home a lot now, and that's... she's beginning to wonder, do you need a second job there somewhere?
I have a full-time job taking care of our house. We're rebuilding it right now, so I am at home a great deal.
On a future marker, that guy is Jameson Rogers, hit the big time with his hit. I think it's his first one, big hit, from a place called Batesville, Mississippi. I know exactly where it is. The Gallo Show from the Trustmark Studios, and appearing in the Trustmark Studio is Craig Ray. But you're right. When we start looking at the list of potential from Tammy Wynette to, we could go on and on and on. Jimmy Rogers. It's nonstop as far as the addition of those.
And what we've found through the natural, I would say the top 35 would be the ones you just mentioned that we went through. But what we're discovering are just all the songwriters that are from Mississippi that maybe moved to Nashville or live, but have maybe never recorded an album themselves, but are on hundreds of albums for other people. And so just, again, the talent pool here in Mississippi, not just for country music and for blues, but just all different genres. It's endless. And so we've been able to tap into that and really recognize our artists through our museums that we have for display, the Grammy Museum, B.B. King Museum, the new Marty Stewart Congress of Country Music, the Arts Museum in Meridian, all first-class properties to share our history with travelers and tourists.
Yeah. That's a subject that we don't need to pass over too quickly, because in your 18 years, I mean, you've seen these things go from on a piece of paper from dreams to actually on a piece of paper and then to fruition, like the Grammy Museum. I mean, I've been to most of them, and I mean, first class. I don't care what state they are in. These are first class, many of them interactive, always updating, with some incredible artifacts. It's another good reason, if you love music, if you love history, to choose Mississippi to spend some time in.
If you look at as a display here, not just a marker. It's not just something that's sticking in the ground. You get out of your car and you go over and read. It's augmented reality. They become real when you listen to the app and you listen to the narrated for each marker. You listen to the music, the videos that are playing that tell that story of that place, not just standing in a field and this is where B.B. King's home was. It's telling the story of that location, of where B.B. was in his life, and then directing you to either the next marker or the next town to see the next item. So it's really making the stories alive. And as I called it, the world's largest outdoor museum is our music trail.
And no matter where you go in the urban areas or the rural areas or metropolitan areas, you're not going to get away from it. You'll turn down a dirt road somewhere in your Sledge, Mississippi, and you'll see a marker for a good reason. And that particular one is Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride.
An incredible guy. I wish we had on all of our tags, like Florida, the Sunshine State, and I'm not sure if they have them on their personal license, but we took it off this year on the new tags, or is it still on there?
The birthplace of America's music, I think it's optional. It was the tag for, I think, 2 or 3 terms, but right now it's not. But I believe you can still request it.
Is that right?
But a lot of, so many different entities that have their own vanity tags, as the Blues Commission does. We have a Blues Trail tag, which has been very successful. It generates about $20,000 a year in revenue that we put right back into our benevolent fund and helping blues artists. So the music tag for the state really has been the Blues Trail marker.
Craig Ray, who is director of Visit Mississippi, have we appointed a new guy yet, or a lady, or where are we with that process?
No, I know the governor has interviewed a couple folks. Actually interviewed one of the ones I had recommended. I'm not at liberty to say names or time, but I feel like it's going to be later this summer that they will be appointed.
I got you.
So wouldn't be after the election. It'll be sooner than later, yes. And I look forward to helping that person out in the transition. Will
the Visit Mississippi or tourism be involved in helping promote, or any assistance at all as far as the Marty Robbins? Oh, here we go again.
Marty
Stewart, geez, and
yes.
Marty Stewart.
Well, the state has, through appropriations and a bond bill, have already helped the Marty Stewart Museum. We will help promote it. Yes, absolutely. It will become part of our national promotion, which we already are, and we're sponsoring special events there, which we do for other museums as well. But what Marty is building and developing there, the country of Congress of Country Music.
There you go.
He's basically moving Nashville to Philadelphia, Mississippi. I mean, he has over 20,000 items that he's collected over the years, all different kinds of memorabilia, plus not just the museum part, but the entertainment that he will bring into that museum, which he already has, to include Dolly Parton this fall, already sold out, 2 shows.
Yeah.
But he can spin a Rolodex in country music that's unbelievable. And it won't just be country music. If you look at his artists that he's bringing in, it's all different kind of genres. So it will be a mecca for music that will enhance the B.B. King Museum, the Grammy Museum, the Meridian, the Max Museum. So it's going to be, as Marty says, it will complement our music tourism product and what they're developing there. But absolutely, Visit Mississippi will help promote that event as it goes forward.
We many interviews ago, and again, Craig Ray is outgoing director of Visit Mississippi with me. Craig, many interviews ago, we were talking about getting on a Greyhound bus or a nice bus, and you could spend the night at the Peabody, where the Delta begins, they say, in Memphis. Then head to Clarksdale. From there, you could go to Cleveland. From Cleveland, you can go to Indianola. I mean, it's almost, and then Meridian, and et cetera, et cetera. It's almost too much now. I mean, you why shouldn't say this? You need to take maybe 2 weeks instead of a week if you're going to see it all by the time you get to the coast.
That's right. And we have, if you go to the website, visitmississippi.org, we have itineraries that are already laid out that you can follow and to those locations and recommendations of where to stay. And really for not just for international, but our international travelers, we do just that. We set up itineraries around the state, places to go, whether it's staying at the Shack Up Inn or staying at the Five and Dime in Clarksdale, or going down to Vicksburg and Natchez, and just driving them through the whole state. There's so many places to choose from, and so many, following our Trails program, our festivals, all the museums. None of these museums, Paul, if you go back to 2004, even existed. The civil rights was still an idea. B.B. King was still alive. You look at our relationship with the Recording Academy hadn't been established yet until like 2007 when we started doing Recording Academy Mississippi events before the thought of a museum was going to be brought to Mississippi. Then the Arts and Entertainment Center was just a Paul Ott dream at that time, just deciding on what to do there. And then, and Marty Stewart's, all of his work was still in Nashville. So the thought of just 18 years ago, none of this was here. And now that we've developed to include this world-class aquarium on the Gulf Coast and the civil rights, the 2 museums here in Jackson and the Art Museum, you just take... None of that existed. So now that it's here and we have places that we can drive people to and set up these itineraries to schedule travel throughout the state, it's been unbelievable changes and upgrades, and the industry has grown around it too.
Something else, because we had the story a couple of 3 weeks ago that they did a survey and they found out that one of the reasons people travel, one of the main ingredients, in some cases, as far as the age, and if you get over 55, it moved from number 2 to number 1, was to experience the food. So now you put together world-class museums with the foods of Mississippi, and you've got all the reason in the world to make a tour through here. It's a great idea.
Absolutely. And
how's that translated in the number of visitors over the years?
Well, the word culinary tourism, who would have thought? That you're planning a trip around food.
And not all of it's fried either.
No. We have so many world-class chefs in our state. And I always say the city of Jackson alone has more 4 5-star restaurants per capita than any other city in the South.
Suburban area.
I try
all
the
metropolitan area. Final thoughts from Craig Ray. When we return, Ron Rishlak. Going to be an interesting conversation. Ole Miss Athletics Committee and Secretary of the SEC Executive Committee. He will tell us what is happening as far as the NIL, and on his legal background, I want to ask him, what protections do whistleblowers have? That is front and center later this morning as Christopher Ray goes before the House, where hearings are held on a multitude of things. Back with more next. How fitting to have B.B. King take us out on the final segment with Craig Ray. It's called How Blue Can You Get? Mike in Gulfport, don't forget ecotourism, 808, wherever that happens to be. So don't forget the Sound. The Amphitheater Gaucher will host for the Mississippi songwriters. So all over the state. And that's a very good point. There, we mentioned those other museums, but there are others across the state, children's museums. I think there was, is it still open, the River Museum? There was a couple up near Tunica.
Yes, River Park.
So, River Park, yeah. So there are other museums out there. So that's just additional reasons.
Endless. We could have a whole other show just talking about amphitheaters and museums, for sure. There's so many. People
don't realize that tourism just pays you in numerous ways. I mean, it's one of the best values ever as far as an investment.
It's the fourth largest industry in the state of Mississippi. Again, pre-COVID, we're getting close to where we were then. We had record number of travelers, 24.7 million visitors. Again, 185,000 of those were international travelers, so we want to get those numbers back. But what interesting this past year, and it could be inflation-driven or we're not sure, but we had the largest number of expenditures from the travelers. Still not record number of travelers, but the travelers that came to Mississippi invested $7.7 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's fourth largest industry here in the state.
And you cannot underestimate the working relationship that one's helped the other as far as the casino industry coming to Mississippi.
Absolutely. The gaming numbers are 50% of those. So of the 24.7 million visitors, at least half of those came from out of state to a resort, whether they were gaming or doing everything else at a casino, golfing, shopping, dining, listening to great music. But the gaming industry is a big part of tourism, great partnership with the gaming industry.
I don't say this with any, I'm trying to be modest about it, but I got to tell you, being a marketing kind of guy for all these years, that if you and I had a chance to sit down and let somebody hear this from any part of the country, two things would happen. First of all, they would probably not have considered Mississippi for a vacation. And secondly, after hearing this, they would put it on their list. I have no doubt in my mind. Because that's the main thing. That's where we're a little short. We don't have the money to do this on a national basis because it's so very, very expensive. You just have to, take what you can get and use it. I know that's been one of your frustrations over the years.
Well, actually, the money scenario has changed over time, for sure. Now that legislation is, I think, in its fifth year, but there's a dedicated funding source that comes to Visit Mississippi for advertising and marketing. So that pool averages about $1.2 million a month that we can either spend it as we go or let it accumulate and invest in programs. So we are competitive with our neighboring states now, not like a California or Florida or some of the others, but between monies invested by gaming and the CVBs and the state, we're very competitive now. But you go back 18 years ago, and we were working off of maybe a $1 million a year budget for advertising. So we're getting there, doing a lot of co-ops with our partners and looking at regional opportunities for marketing. And so really have come a long way and had to because we had to be competitive with our neighboring states when they're spending millions of dollars and we were spending maybe $1 million. So, but we're very, very competitive. It's really paying off too.
BJ in Hattiesburg, Kim Shelby Museums. Yeah, see, that just keeps going popping up.
Which is a great museum right off 49 South outside of Hattiesburg.
You and I are in the senior division, but that doesn't underestimate our knowledge that social media is so important right now. Influencers out there, it's a whole new world. But man, sometimes you can pack a punch with that. Certainly for the younger generation. Are you satisfied where we are as far as using social media?
Well, you definitely have to. It has to be a part of your advertising portfolio. You still need to do billboards, digital billboards, still need to be in magazines, still need to do radio and digital, but social media is a must. And it's not just going to Twitter and reading about a story. It's attaching videos to that Instagram piece or Facebook. Facebook is still the number one driver for our social media. We have a very active social media program and hundreds of thousands of followers, so it's very important.
Certainly in that age category, too,
Absolutely.
as far as Facebook is concerned. Yeah. Man, it's a pleasure. Don't be a stranger. You got to come back and just serve as a consultant on some things.
I would love to. I'm going to bring this marker to you, take you out to dinner. I want your signature.
Let's do that. Absolutely, positively. Craig Ray, Director of Visit Mississippi.
Thank you, Paul.
Ron Rich.